La sádica enfermera asesina de bebés. El caso de Lucy Letby es uno de esos casos en los que uno se pregunta cómo un ser humano es capaz de tamaña monstruosidad. Cómo una enfermera joven calificada que lo tenía todo fue capaz de asesinar a 7 bebés inocentes e intentar asesinar a otros 6, de los cuales 2 tienen un daño permanente que hace que sus vidas sean un mero reflejo de lo que serían si no hubieran pasado por las manos de esta mujer. Lucy nació el 4 de enero de 1990 en el seno de una familia de clase media de Inglaterra, hija única de padres que hasta el día de hoy siguen casados y con los cuales vivía hasta ser arrestada en 2018. En apariencia, ella era una joven encantadora que soñaba con ser enfermera neonatal, puesto que afirmaba que su vida había sido salvada por las enfermeras después de que su madre tuviera un parto complicado. Finalmente, en 2011, consiguió su tan anhelado título de enfermera, con tan solo 21 años, siendo la primer profesional de la familia. En 2012, comenzó a trabajar en la unidad de cuidados neonatales e incluso recaudó fondos para mejorar la unidad. Todo en la vida de Lucy era un cuento de hadas. Comenzó a trabajar e inmediatamente congenió muy bien con las otras enfermeras que pasaron a considerarla una amiga. Todo iba de maravillas hasta que comenzaron a morir bebés, y eso ocurrió exactamente cuando obtuvo la certificación para trabajar en cuidados intensivos neonatales. Aquí veremos unos fragmentos del juicio.
Lucy Letby, over a period of almost 13 months between June 2015 and June 2016, when in your mid-20s and employed as a neonatal nurse in the Countess of Chester Hospital in Chester, with specialist training in intensive care, you murdered 7 babies and attempted to murder 6 others. In the case of one of them, trying on separate occasions 2 weeks apart to murder her. You are now to be sentenced for your crimes. I order payment of the statutory surcharge in the appropriate amount. You acted in a way that was completely contrary to the normal human instincts of nurturing and caring for babies, and in gross breach of the trust that all citizens place in those who work in the medical and caring professions. The babies you harmed were born prematurely, and some were at risk of not surviving. But in each case, you deliberately harmed them, intending to kill them. In your evidence, you said that hurting a baby is completely against everything that being a nurse is, as indeed it should be. You also claimed you never did anything that was meant to hurt a baby, and only ever did your best to care for them. That was but one of the many lies you were found to have told in this case. There is no doubt that you are intelligent and outwardly were a very conscientious, hard-working, knowledgeable, confident and professional nurse, which enabled you repeatedly to harm babies on the unit without arousing suspicion for some time. You prided yourself in your competence. Your fellow neonatal nurses spoke very highly of you, and several of them became your close friends. Having started as a Band 5 nurse at the Countess of Chester in 2012, you became a mentor to student nurses, and in the spring of 2015 gained the qualification that enabled you to care for the sickest babies on the unit or those requiring the most intensive care. You relished being in the intensive care nursery. Your messages to colleagues revealed an interest in babies that were on or were coming to the unit who had uncommon medical conditions. The methods you employed to carry out your murderous intent were only revealed by the later detailed investigation into the events of and surrounding the collapses and deaths of the babies, which commenced in 2018. There was premeditation, calculation, and cunning in your actions. You specifically targeted twins and latterly triplets. Some babies were healthy, others had medical issues of which you were aware. The great majority of your victims suffered acute pain as a result of what you did to them. They all fought for survival. Some, sadly, struggled in vain and died. You used a number of different ways to try to kill them, thereby misleading clinicians into believing the collapses had or might have had a natural cause or were a consequence of a developing medical condition. You took opportunities to harm babies when staff were in breaks or away from babies. On some occasions, you falsified records to indicate there were signs of a deterioration before a collapse occurred. You knew that the last thing anyone working in the unit would or did think was that someone caring for the babies was deliberately harming them. As the number of unexpected and unexplained collapses and deaths escalated, senior doctors started to think the unthinkable and consider the possibility that someone was, in fact, deliberately harming the babies, and you were identified as the common factor. Over a period of just under 13 months, you killed 7 fragile babies and attempted to kill 6 others. Some of your victims were only a day or a few days old. All were extremely vulnerable. They were in a hospital where others were striving to provide them with dedicated medical and nursing care. By their nature and number, such murders and attempted murders by a neonatal nurse entrusted to care for them are offences of very exceptional seriousness. The damaging impact of your actions on others working at that hospital, including those who numbered you as a friend, betraying their trust and creating upset and suspicion, as well as eroding confidence in clinicians and nurses generally, aggravates their seriousness. This was a cruel, calculated, and cynical campaign of child murder involving the smallest and most vulnerable of children, knowing that your actions were causing significant physical suffering and would cause untold mental suffering. You created situations so that collapses or causes of collapses would not be obvious or associated with you. You removed and retained confidential records of events relating to your crimes and checked up on bereaved parents. There was a deep malevolence bordering on sadism in your actions. During the course of this trial, you have coldly denied any responsibility for your wrongdoing and sought to attribute some fault to others. You have no remorse. There are no mitigating factors. In their totality, the offences of murder and attempted murder were of exceptionally high seriousness, and just punishment, according to law, requires a whole life order. Lucy Letby, on each of the 7 offences of murder and the 7 offences of attempted murder, I sentence you to imprisonment for life.
Una de las cosas más increíbles es que esta mujer les enviaba cartas de condolencia a los padres, seguía sus vidas en Facebook para enterarse sobre su dolor, Les mandaba mensajes de texto preguntando por las víctimas que no había podido matar, se mantenía en contacto y una de las madres incluso llegó a pedirle que fuera la madrina de su hijo. Disfrutaba no solo torturando a bebés inocentes, sino viendo cómo la vida de sus padres se venía abajo, cómo las familias entraban en conflicto, los matrimonios se divorciaban y todo el mundo sufría. Las formas que ella usaba para matar a los bebés de pocas horas de vida son inenarrables y dolorosísimas, y es algo que hace que cualquiera se pregunte ¿por qué? ¿Sadismo? ¿Jugar a ser Dios? ¿Qué fue lo que motivó a esta mujer joven, bonita, con una carrera brillante, que venía de una familia estable, a cometer esas atrocidades? Existen dos hipótesis que manejan los investigadores. La primera, locura, que quedó obviamente descartada porque ella entendía la gravedad de sus acciones. La segunda, que debido a estar enamorada de un médico casado, buscaba llamar su atención. El medio para el fin. Matar para atraer la atención del hombre que le gustaba sin que le importase la vida de esas criaturas y de sus padres, mientras sentía placer en provocarles dolor. Como el médico aparentemente no le prestaba atención, ella atacaba a los bebés y le mandaba mensajes para que se presentara en la unidad. De hecho, figuran cientos de mensajes que ella le enviaba reportándole lo que iba ocurriendo con los bebés para que él se apurara. Una de las cosas más tristes de este caso es que algunas de las muertes se pudieron haber evitado, ya que en 2015 Lucy fue reportada, pero el encargado de la unidad se negó a trasladarla. El mismo médico por el cual ella estaba obsesionada fue quien terminó llevándola a la justicia, y se cree que estos 7 pequeños no fueron las únicas víctimas de Lucy.